What's going on, guys? This is my post-ride review of the Suzuki GSX8R. Got to send a huge shout out over to Hunter, Tommy, and the rest of the gang over at Stub Cycles for allowing me the opportunity to bring this bike to you. In the description below, you will find a link to the ride-along video where you can see this machine in action and catch my reaction to this bike in real time. So, GSX8R, this is a revisit, and this is so much fun because when I very first got started doing ride and reviews, the GSX8R was the first bike that I did a review on, and the bike that I rode today was the exact same bike that I reviewed back then. So a very cool revisitation of an old friend, but things have changed since then, and the Honda CB750 Hornet has finally made it to the United States. And a lot of people were anticipating how that bike was going to stack up against the GSX8R and more, I guess appropriately, its sibling, the GSX8S, which is its naked variant. So how do they compare? Well, let's dive into that. First of all, the Suzuki offers up a completely different power output than the Honda does. What I mean by that is that it's really all about bottom end torque with the Suzuki. You grab a handful of throttle with that 80 horsepower parallel twin that is in the GSX8R, GSX8S, and for the V-Strom for that matter. And you're rewarded with this very strong initial hit of torque that really does usher you forward. It makes downshifting on the highway practically just an option, and it makes this motorcycle really a bit more lively and a bit more solid feeling, in that that engine just feels like it's bigger than it really is. Bit of an overachiever in that environment, as opposed to the Honda, which does much better on the right-hand side of its tachometer. It is an over square engine architecture where the Suzuki is a bit more of a longer stroke, smaller piston to develop that torque. The Honda has a bigger piston and a shorter stroke to aid in RPM development, so it makes better horsepower at the expense of not having that same tip-in throttle response. Its torque is very linear, where the Suzuki is very impactful. And that is still the calling card for the Suzuki and one of its most endearing qualities. And again, having the opportunity to spend a little bit of time with a bike with that engine, and again, whether it's the GSX8R, 8S, or the V-Strom, I've got to say that it has always impressed me the way that that bike gets down the road, and it comes across in that ride-along video again. In fact, I think I may have been even more giddy in the video that I just did, where you'll find the link in the description below. You'll see my enthusiasm, and I think I even asked you, please forgive my bias, because I just like it so much. I'm a bit more attracted to a motorcycle, especially a bike that is maybe a bit more of a city style bike like the GSX8 family of bikes are. When you have that just rich initial hit of torque, it makes the bike feel more lively, more spirited. And for a lot of folks, they would agree. I mean, there are so many folks that love the V-Strom and the 8R and the 8S that when they've ridden the CB750 Hornet, their main takeaway is that it's only fun when you wrap the thing out on the right-hand side of the tack. Is that necessarily true? It's a bit subjective sounding to me, but it seems to be the overarching element that holds the two apart. It's just how those engines make power. But what are they like to ride in general? Well, I can tell you this. In my experience, the GSX8R seems to be a bit more stable going down the road. It's a bit more tightly sprung, if you will, with the suspension. And it feels more like a sport bike. And the Hornet, on the other hand, just feels like more of, well, a stripped down adventure bike in a way. It kind of bridges the gap between motard and sport utility, where the GSX8R is kind of bridging the gap between sport naked and sport bike. So with the Honda being a bit more compliantly sprung, it's a bit more comfortable dealing with bumps and, undulations, expansion joints going down the road. But at the expense of feeling stable. The Honda feels like it wants to have a little bit more of a head shake, mainly because it's trying to maybe wheelie a little bit more than the GSX8R with a bit more of a committed riding position. So as you can see, these two motorcycles could not be any further apart on the bookend, if you will, of these middleweight sporty type motorcycles, with everything else basically filling in the gaps between these two machines. So different they are that you can literally have one of each in your garage and have a completely different riding experience with both bikes, even though they are still part of the same class of bikes. So which one is better? Well, that's a subjective question. Depends on what you like. If you like instant gratification with torque and a bit more of a taut riding experience with a bike that does in a way feel more substantial, then the Suzuki is going to be the bike for you. If you like a motorcycle that is a bit more lively and that has the characteristic of it likes to rev a lot, well then that's going to be the Honda for you. And I gotta tell you, you're not going wrong in any direction that you go. But for me, personally, it takes a lot to impress me anywhere further than the GSX8R. I love the performance window of that machine. I love the way that it handles. And guys, I'd almost feel like I'm cheating on that bike if I pick the Honda. It's just that good and so endearing to me, where the Honda, I don't think we just gelled as much as I did with the Suzuki. But post up your comments. Let me know what you think. Which bike do you like better? And let me know why I'm wrong. And with that, guys, I hope to see you on the next one. Take care.